The Council's arrogance. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council tower pierced the purple sky of Nexus Prime like needles of pure ambition. Within its highest chamber, 13 species sat in judgment of one that dared to exist beyond there. Control. High Counselor Vextar of the Catherian Federation stood at the center of the circular room, his 4 arms spread wide in what his species considered a gesture of absolute authority. His scaled hide shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with barely contained fury. The humans had been a curiosity for too long. Their rapid expansion across the outer rim systems had been tolerated as the bumbling efforts of a primitive species. A tolerance had limits, and those limits had been crossed when human colonies began refusing council taxation, ignoring trade regulations, and worst of all, developing technologies without council oversight. The time for patience has ended, Vextar announced, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones that made his words seem like divine proclamations to his own kind. Around the chamber, representatives of 12 other species nodded in agreement. The Velkin hive mind's drone clicked its mandibles in approval. The gaseous Nephilim's containment suit hummed with agreement. Even the usually neutral crystalline collective's ambassador pulsed with supportive light patterns. The humans call themselves independent, continued Vextar, but independence without supervision leads to chaos. We have seen worlds burn because lesser species were allowed to develop unchecked. The humans will submit to council authority, or they will be made to understand the consequences of defiance. 3 star systems away, aboard the Terran flagship, Prometheus, Admiral Sarah Chun stood before a massive holographic display showing the defensive positions of Earth and its 47 colony worlds. Her weathered face bore the scars of 3 decades of military service, and her eyes held the steady resolve that had earned her command of humanity's most advanced fleet. The bridge around her hummed with quiet efficiency as her crew monitored communications from across human space. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Torres from the communication station, priority transmission from Nexus Prime. It's marked as a formal council directive. Chun turned, her expression unchanging. She had been expecting this moment for months. Intelligence reports had indicated growing council frustration with human expansion, and their spy networks had intercepted fragments of discussions about corrective measures. She walked to the central command platform and activated the secure, channeled out the hologram that materialized showed Vextar in all his imposing glory. Behind him, the other council members sat in their designated positions, creating a backdrop of alien authority that was designed to intimidate. But Sarah Chun had faced down space pirates, hostile alien raiders, and the vacuum of space itself. A room full of politicians, regardless of their species, did not impress her. Admiral Chun of the Terran Defense Fleet, Vextar began, his translator rendering his words in crisp, formal English. By unanimous decision of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby ordered to submit to council governance within 72 standard hours. You will surrender your military forces, submit your colonies to council administrators, and accept integration into the established galactic order. This directive is non-negotiable. The hologram continued with a list of specific demands: disbanding of the Terran military, surrender of all advanced weapons technology, acceptance of council-appointed governors for all human worlds, and payment of reparations for what the council termed illegal expansion activities. The terms were not those of integration, but of complete subjugation. Shun listened without expression until the transmission ended. Around her, the bridge crew waited in tense silence. Finally, she spoke. Mr. Torres, open a channel to Earth Command. Priority, Alpha. Within minutes, Ambassador Marcus Rivera's weathered face appeared on the screen from his office in Geneva. Behind him, the flags of Earth's United Nations served as a reminder of humanity's long journey from a divided world to a species capable of reaching for the stars. "Admiral," Rivera said simply, "I assume you've received the Council's ultimatum." "I have. What are your orders, Mr. Ambassador?" Rivera was quiet for a long moment, his fingers steepled as he considered words that would shape the future of their species. As Earth's chief diplomatic representative, he had spent years trying to find peaceful solutions to humanity's growing conflicts with the established galactic powers. He had negotiated trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and resource sharing. Pacts, always seeking to avoid the confrontation that now seemed inevitable. "Sarah," he said finally, using her first name in a breach of protocol that spoke volumes about the gravity of the moment. "The United Government has been in emergency session for the past 6 hours. The vote was unanimous. We will not surrender. Our freedom to anyone, human or alien. Prepare your response accordingly." Chun nodded. She had hoped for this answer, while simultaneously dreading it. Hope, because the alternative was unthinkable. Dread, because she knew what would follow. "Understood, Mr. Ambassador. The Terran Defense Fleet stands ready." After the transmission ended, Chun turned to address her bridge crew. These men and women had served with her through border skirmishes and exploration missions. They had seen her lead from the front in every crisis, and they trusted her judgment implicitly. "All hands," she announced over the ship-wide communication system. "This is the Admiral. As of this moment, the Terran Defense Fleet is at Condition Red. We have received an ultimatum from the Galactic Council demanding our complete surrender. That ultimatum has been rejected by our government and by every principle we swore to defend. Prepare for combat operations." The response was immediate and electric. Throughout the ship and across the entire human fleet, sailors moved with purpose, born of years of training and preparation. What the Council did not know, what their intelligence networks had failed to detect, was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since their first contact with galactic civilization. The Phoenix Protocol had been developed in absolute secrecy by Earth's most brilliant military minds and scientists. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belts, concealed weapons platforms in deep space, and a network of supply caches scattered across human territory all waited for activation. The Council saw humanity as a young species playing at civilization. But they were about to discover that humans had learned the hard lessons of survival long before they reached the stars. 18 hours into the ultimatum period, the Council's patience ran out. High Counselor Vextar had expected immediate submission, or at least desperate attempts at negotiation. Instead, he had received only silence from human space. His pride and the watching eyes of the other Council members demanded action. "Deploy the 4th Pacification Fleet to the New Geneva system," he ordered. "One demonstration of our resolve should be sufficient to bring the humans to their senses." New Geneva was humanity's newest colony, a thriving world of 2 million settlers on the edge of human space. It had been chosen precisely because it was isolated, lightly defended, and its loss would be a clear message without crippling humanity's overall capacity. The mathematics of intimidation required surgical precision. The 4th Pacification Fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and 40 escort vessels, more than enough firepower to overwhelm New Geneva's modest orbital defenses. Fleet Commander Kickstow, a veteran of 17 pacification campaigns, led the force with the confidence of one who had never faced serious resistance from primitive species. The attack began at dawn, New Geneva time. The planet's 3 orbital defense platforms managed to fire exactly 4 shots before they were vaporized by concentrated plasma bombardments. The surface-to-space missile batteries lasted slightly longer, but their targeting systems had never been designed to track vessels with Council-level defensive capabilities. In 12 minutes, New Geneva's defenses were eliminated. In 18 minutes, the first kinetic bombardment rounds began striking population centers. The Council forces followed established doctrine: demonstrate overwhelming power, minimize infrastructure damage, eliminate resistance capabilities. The goal was submission, not extinction. But as the bombardment continued, long-range sensors detected something unexpected. Deep space monitoring stations registered massive energy signatures, moving at impossible speeds toward the new Geneva system. The readings were unlike anything in Council databases, suggesting propulsion and power systems that exceeded even their most advanced technologies. Admiral Chun watched the attack on New Geneva from the Prometheus with cold fury. Each explosion that bloomed on the colony's surface represented families destroyed, dreams ended, and lives cut short by alien arrogance. The colonists had been given no warning, no chance to evacuate, no opportunity to surrender. This was not a demonstration of power. This was murder. Admiral called Captain Elena Vasquez from the tactical station. Phoenix Fleet reports ready for deployment. All stealth systems online, weapons charged. Chun looked around her bridge one final time. When she gave the next order, there would be no going back. Humanity would either emerge from the coming conflict as a force to be respected in the galaxy, or they would be remembered as a species that chose to die on their feet rather than live on their knees. Activate Phoenix Protocol, she commanded. All units, weapons free. Show them what happens when you wake a sleeping giant. Across human space, the hidden fleets emerged from dark matter clouds and asteroid fields where they had waited in absolute silence. The Phoenix Protocol was not merely a military response. It was humanity's declaration that they would not go quietly into subjugation. The Galactic Council had expected compliance or a brief, futile resistance. They were about to discover that. Some species, when pushed too far, push back with the fury of stars themselves. The Empire unleashed. First sign that something had gone catastrophically wrong came from the outer rim sensor stations. Fleet Commander Kixtall was reviewing the bombardment efficiency reports from New Geneva when his communications officer's voice cracked with disbelief. "Commander, we're receiving distress signals from Outpost Kethmer. They report multiple unidentified vessels approaching at impossible velocities. Sir, the energy signatures don't match any known species in the Council database." Kixtall turned from his tactical display, his confidence beginning to crack like ice under pressure. Kethmer was a fortified supply station 3 systems away, designed to support extended pacification campaigns. Its destruction would leave his fleet stranded in hostile territory. "How many vessels?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. The sensor readings are ... inconsistent. Sometimes we detect 3 ships, sometimes 30. It's as if they're phasing in and out of normal space." Before Kixtall could respond, the distress signals from Kethmer abruptly stopped. In the void between stars, humanity's first stealth destroyer, the Wraith, drifted silently through the debris field that had once been a Council military station. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on her bridge, watching the wreckage spin in the cosmic wind. "Clean sweep," reported her tactical officer. "Station destroyed. Supply convoys eliminated. No survivors detected." Vasquez nodded grimly. The Wraith and her sister ships had been humanity's greatest secret, constructed in hidden shipyards using technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Their hulls were composed of metamaterials that bent light and sensor waves around them, making them effectively invisible to conventional detection systems. Their weapon systems used principles of quantum tunneling to bypass enemy shields entirely. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Phase 1 complete. Initiating Phase 2. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out with clockwork precision. The Council's forward operating bases, supply depots, and communication relays began disappearing from the strategic map. Each installation was eliminated with surgical precision, leaving no trace of the attackers except empty space where proud Council facilities had once stood. High Counselor Vextar received the first reports in his private chambers, initially dismissing them as exaggerated accounts from panicked garrison commanders. But as the reports multiplied, his scaled hide began to flush with the deep orange patterns that indicated profound unease among his species. "Impossible," he muttered, reviewing the tactical summaries. 12 installations eliminated simultaneously across 4 systems. No species has that level of coordination except the hive mind, and they're bound by the non-interference accords. His military advisor, General Kethvar, stood stiffly beside the holographic display. "High Counselor, the attack patterns suggest a level of strategic planning that spans decades. These weren't desperate strikes by a cornered species. These were precision operations by a military force that has been preparing for this exact scenario." Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the data. The humans had been silent for 36 hours since receiving the ultimatum. Not silent like a species paralyzed by fear, but silent like predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "How many ships would be required for these simultaneous attacks?" he asked. "Based on the energy signatures and destruction patterns, we estimate a minimum of 60 heavy combat vessels, operating with perfect coordination across multiple star systems. The humans barely have 30 ships in their entire fleet, according to our intelligence reports." General Kethvar's expression grew troubled. "Perhaps our intelligence was incomplete, High Counselor." Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian Republic's capital system, a very different conversation was taking place. Advisor Kelenoth, the Republic's chief military strategist, stood before a holographic display showing the same tactical data that was causing panic in Council chambers. But unlike the Council leaders, Kelenoth was smiling. The Zephyrians had been enemies of the Council for 3 centuries, locked in a cold war that periodically erupted into limited conflicts. They had watched humanity's rise with interest, seeing in the young species a potential ally against Council hegemony. When the ultimatum was issued, Kelenoth had immediately begun preparing for the opportunity that was sure to follow. "Chancellor," he said to the aging Zephyrian leader, "the humans have just accomplished something we've been attempting for decades. They've struck simultaneously at hardened Council positions across multiple systems with perfect coordination. Their stealth technology alone represents advances that could change the balance of power in the galaxy." Chancellor Vorthak studied the data with the patience of a species that measured time in centuries rather than years. "You believe we should approach them?" "I believe we should offer them everything they need to continue this war. Ships, supplies, intelligence, safe harbor for their wounded. The enemy of our enemy is our friend, and the humans have just proven themselves to be very effective enemies indeed." The message from the Zephyrian Republic reached Admiral Chun aboard the Prometheus as her fleets regrouped in dark space. The communication was brief, but profound in its implications. "Admiral Chun, I am Advisor Kelenoth of the Zephyrian Republic. Our peoples have not been formally introduced, but we share a common enemy. We offer alliance against the Galactic Council, including technological exchange, strategic coordination, and mutual defense pacts. The Council has ruled through fear for too long. Perhaps it is time they learned to feel that fear themselves." Chun studied the alien face on her screen. The Zephyrians were humanoid, but distinctly alien, with crystalline features and eyes that held the depth of ancient wisdom. Their reputation as warriors was legendary throughout the galaxy, and their technology was considered nearly equal to the Council's. "Advisor Kelenoth," she replied, "humanity accepts your offer of alliance. But understand, we're not fighting for conquest or territorial gain. We're fighting for the right to exist as a free species. Admiral, that is precisely why we wish to fight beside you. The alliance between humanity and the Zephyrian Republic was formalized within hours, transmitted through quantum-encrypted channels that the Council's intelligence services could not intercept. The joining of human innovation with Zephyrian experience created a partnership that would reshape the balance of galactic power. Captain Elena Vasquez led the first joint operation, her stealth destroyer Wraith operating alongside 3 Zephyrian shadow cruisers. Their target was the Council's primary fleet anchorage at Nexus Beta, a fortified system that housed nearly 200 Council vessels. The attack began at 0300 station time, when most of the garrison was in sleep cycle. Zephyrian expertise in shield harmonics combined with human quantum tunneling weapons created a synergy that overwhelmed the station's defenses before alarms could even sound. In 47 minutes, the Council's most secure naval base was reduced to drifting wreckage. But the true shock came when the attackers didn't simply vanish into the void. Instead, they transmitted a message on all Council frequencies, speaking in perfect Council standard. "People of the galaxy," Admiral Chun's voice carried across space. "This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Empire. For too long, the Galactic Council has ruled through intimidation and fear. They believe that might makes right, that older civilizations have the authority to subjugate younger ones. Today, we prove them wrong." The message continued, broadcast from relay stations that materialized throughout Council space like ghosts. Becoming solid. "We did not seek this war, but we will finish it. Every species that has suffered under Council oppression, every world that has been forced to surrender its independence, every voice that has been silenced by Council authority, know that you are not alone. The age of Council dominance is ending." In his chambers on Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vextar watched the broadcast with growing horror. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were declaring themselves the foundation of a new galactic order. The Terran Empire, they called it. An empire born from the ashes of Council arrogance. "How many ships do they actually have?" he demanded of his intelligence chief. "Unknown, High Counselor. Our estimates have been revised upward 17 times. In the past 48 hours. They appear to have construction capabilities we never detected, operating from facilities we never located." Vextar's bioluminescent patterns flickered with patterns of deep fear. "What are you telling me?" "I'm telling you that we may have been systematically deceived about human capabilities for decades. While we saw them as primitive expansionists, they were building a military-industrial complex designed specifically to challenge Council authority. The final blow to Council confidence came when the Nephilim Collective and the Vulcan hive mind simultaneously announced their withdrawal from the anti-human coalition. Both species had suffered losses in the opening phases of the war that exceeded their tolerance for casualties. The humans, it seemed, had identified and targeted the command structures that each species considered irreplaceable. Admiral Chun stood once again on the bridge of the Prometheus, but now her fleet had grown. Zephyrian vessels moved in formation, alongside human ships, their combined firepower representing the most formidable military force the galaxy had seen in a millennium. Behind them, supply ships carried the resources needed to sustain a war across multiple star systems. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Nexus Prime. It's marked as a formal diplomatic overture." Chun smiled coldly. "Put it through." High Counselor Vextar appeared on the screen, his once proud bearing now tempered by the reality of his situation. "Admiral Chun, the Galactic Council wishes to open negotiations regarding a peaceful resolution to current hostilities." "Counselor Vextar," Chun replied, "the Terran Empire is prepared to discuss terms. But understand, we are no longer the same species that received your ultimatum. We have allies now, resources you never imagined, and a mandate from our people to ensure that no human world ever again faces the choice between submission and destruction." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. The galaxy is changing, Counselor. The question is whether the Council will adapt to the new reality or be swept aside by it. You have 72 hours to decide. As the transmission ended, Chun turned to look out at the stars. Somewhere among them, the future of galactic civilization was being written by the choices made in these crucial moments. Humanity had answered the Council's ultimatum with fury, but now they would build something better from the ashes of the old order. The Terran Empire had been born in fire, but it would grow in the light of freedom.